A very good evening, everyone. Hope you all are safe and doing well. We are back with a new Fresh Talk this weekend. Thank you all for enrolling in this event. Excel in Excel welcomes you all. Let me give you a gist about Excel in Excel. Excel in Excel is a data analytics firm that solves high impact business problems using data and technology. We provide end to end services in the field of data analytics and data visualization. Our core services include analytics, consulting, and training. Excel in Excel presents the popular talk show EiEFreshTalk on its YouTube channel, where it hosts great leaders and subject matter experts in various fields from India and abroad to speak regularly on a variety of topics ranging from Excel to analytics and finance to financial modeling and many more. Few of our past events are 7 Excel features pros use to be more efficient by Sumit Bansal, 5 must-have charts in any finance person's toolbox by Chandu, Rich data types in MS Excel by Paula Guilfoyle, Secret lookup functions that deserve your love by Alan Murray. Today's talk is about data visualization in MS Excel tips and tricks presented by Mr. Jordan Goldmeier. Mr. Jordan Goldmeier is an internationally recognized data scientist and visualization expert, author, and a keynote speaker. He is an Excel MVP and is specialized in VBA, dashboards, and data visualization. He believes that there are three pillars to high quality Excel development, and they are good developing practices, good data visualization, thinking outside the cell. Jordan is the chief data therapist at Excel.tv, where he empowers individuals, teams, and executives to be smart data thinkers without investing in expensive new technologies. His website, Excel.tv, has many blogs on a variety of topics about Excel, VBA, and data analysis, besides details about his training and videos. He has provided consultancy services and training, and his clients include the NATO, the Pentagon, and Financial Times, among others. He owns Cambia Factor, a data consulting agency. He is the author of two books, Advanced Excel Essentials and Dashboards for Excel. We welcome you, sir. It's a pleasure having you with us. Before we begin, I request participants to join me in welcoming today's speaker with a hi in the chat section. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box. We will later present it to the speaker. Over to you, sir.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to be here. You will let me know if you can't hear me or if I need to say something over as these things go as we do
We
live streamings.
we can hear you, Jordan.
Okay, great. Awesome. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go ahead and share my screen, and that's just going to take a second. And you know what they say? Every good presentation should open with a joke, right? So let me, so you guys know what comes after an Excel joke, right? A sequel. Now, let's see here. If I can share my screen, I'm going to try this right now. Okay. All right. Actually, let me do
We can
that
see your
one more
screen.
time.
We can see
I
your
see. I
screen.
see.
Zoom.
I know you can. Let me just fix something here. I was so quick to tell my joke that I shared the wrong screen. So one moment. We're gonna get this right. Okay, here we go. Shared the right screen. So let me get this started now. Just a little bit more about me, because you know the thing is, I'm not a big slides person. I don't love slides. So I make as few as possible. So you know, most of everything about me has been mentioned. I really do like that opening, things I do believe in. I was born in Columbus, Ohio. I don't know if that's would be too interesting to anyone, except if you know Chandu's history. Chandu worked in Columbus, Ohio, and we were both there at the same time, but we never ran into each other. So I always think that that's kind of crazy, because then later he was one of the co-authors on Dashboards for Excel with me. So I have written two books. I am working on my third book. This one is called Becoming a Data Head. It's not actually a data book, or excuse me, an Excel book. It's really just about data literacy and learning what these statistical problems are. And so the tech side and the business side can finally start communicating in harmony. And I'm also a technical editor. I'm currently in the process of editing Python for Excel. This one's with O'Reilly. Excel 2019 Bible, that one is for Wiley. I'm also an emergency medical technician here in the United States. So I ride the ambulances, live in Queens, or excuse me, live in Brooklyn, but I'm in an ambulance. I do the volunteer ambulance for both Queens and Brooklyn. Also, I can be hired. So if you're thinking, hey, wow, this is really interesting, know that you can bring it to your company. Okay, so what is the most important thing here? I just want to make sure you get the most out of your time. I move fast, so my stuff is really best enjoyed by you just sit back and relax and kind of take it in and think about it, so you don't have to follow it, at least right now. You know, you don't have to follow it exactly step by step. I want you to really focus on how we think about these problems differently. The download files, there is a link to them. I gave it to the organizers, so they should have provided it, or you'll be able to find it here. But please download this stuff and then reuse it for yourself. Big thing here, I say think creatively, think outside the cell. Hold on a second. I've been doing this. I think I've been doing this wrong the whole time. There we go. Okay. This is what happens. I get too focused on one side. Okay, so make sure you watch the video, repurpose the stuff for your own work. Think creatively, think outside the cell. So I want you to start thinking differently about problems we have, and just make sure that you get the download files. Now, and by the way, this is in this resource here that I'm showing you here. This is in the download files. Our website, excel.tv. You can contact me, jordan@excel.tv. Very easy to remember. I'm also here to help. So I know you said you can hire me, but you have something that takes 10 minutes. You're like, hey, I've been looking at this problem. I want to know where it goes. My memory. I have a pretty good article memory, having probably gone through every Excel article there is. So if you have, I consider it like a personal challenge. If you have something, you're like, man, I've been working on this. Where should I go next? I help people all the time with that. Very optimized to do it. No problem. I have no problem with doing that. So please feel free to ask for that help, because you know how it is these days. If you don't ask, you don't get help, but people are always more than willing to help when you do ask. And certainly many of them are willing to help for free. So always make sure that you ask. And, that's just kind of an extension of my beliefs in the Excel community. Okay, so with all that being said, let's just start this off. I have the benefits of having done a few of these before. So what I like to do is, I think versus like classes where there's like pedagogy and stuff, what I really like about user groups and talking, over podcasts, things like this, is that, I can kind of do it the way I think it should be done. And I don't have to get kind of bogged down and saying, oh, we have to learn this thing first or learn that thing first. What I'd rather do is kind of show you how I like to learn and think about these things and invite you into that world, because I think that there's really a lot to know. So, okay, we're going to start here. My file is the spark lines with the tornado data. We're going to return to this tornado data later. This is data from the United States. Over here on the left side, we got the years. Here, these are the total tornadoes that took place. So these are the total tornadoes for that year. And then over here, in this crosstab date section here, I'm highlighting the whole thing because all of this here should add up to 201. And even though I know it does, I just want to prove it to you. So I've highlighted this. I'm going to take my cursor here. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm just going to go look down here on my status bar. It says sum 201. Okay, great. So I like what I see. So what I really want to do here is I want to use some type of data visualization to get a sense really of perhaps the where the most tornadoes are happening over that 12-month period for every year. Well, how could I see it all at once? That would be the question, right? So what I would like to do here, what I think could be done here is spark lines. So I'm going to go to insert. I'm going to insert this column sparkline here. What's my data range? That's going to be this right here. Go ahead and hit OK. Okay, so we have a sparkline. That looks good. That kind of gives us a sense of where the highest or the month with the greatest amount of tornadoes. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this and just drag it down. Also, one of the great things I love about sparklines that you can do this. So this gives us a better idea, but you know, I won't go into like the data visualization theory in this talk just because of a matter of time. But probably as you look at this, you can say to yourself, well, is this the best way to look at it? Are we actually getting the true story here? So if we follow some data visualization principles, I mean, if you think about the most obvious principles, which are around color, hue, and intensity, things like that. Notice if I just highlight cell F4, when I create this highlight visually, just this yellow stands out. So I'm creating a signal, right, among the data noise. So can I do that over here with these spark lines? Well, I can. One of the things I can do is I can change the color to create more of a backdrop. So right now the color is very dark, which suggests to us it's like the entire signal. It suggests to us the story that we want to know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to lighten it up like that. Let's see here. I'm going to click off real quick. So that makes it grayer. And then like what I said was I wanted to know the highest point, right? I wanted to understand. So I gave you the answer of what I was going to do next. To highlight the highest point, I'm going to click that. So that gave it this kind of soft gray. But that to me is not enough contrast to make this case, right? So the marker color here, I'm going to click that. We're going to make the high point darker, like a dark black like that. And then I'm going to be honest, like I'm bothered. I think that the sparkline color, it's too dark. Go lighter. Sometimes I go darker because I'm so used to presenting on a screen, and then I do it on the screen. You can't see it. Hopefully you guys can see somewhere in here. Yeah, right there. That looks good. Okay. So I now have a better sense of what I'm trying to tell with regard to this year and taking this data, right, and just mapping it onto a visual. So as I look down, I see that in the early years, right, there really, there's a lot more variation around when, where that high point is, right, where that month is and when it's happening. I mean, you could see it really, as expected, happen somewhere between the end of spring and midsummer. I think, you know, honestly, I didn't even count them out. But if I do, let's see here, I'm looking at this. Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say that they happen around June. I got scared for a second because, you know, I was like, oh, I'm saying something about the data, but did I double check it? Did I validate it? I want to get behind that. So always something to think about. But one of the problems I'm looking at here is that you'll notice every spark line, it's the axis is set to the maximum, right? So this is, let's see here, May has the maximum 61 in here. So that means that this axis is going from 0 to 61. On the other hand, this one, let's see here, 76 is here. This one's going from 0 to 76. So what we're really seeing is the relative differences, right? We're not seeing the actual differences. This is a problem, at least for me, because let's say I want to know the greater story. So I'll go here. I'm going to click on the sparkline button. And under axis over here, we have the maximum value options, right? So right there. So this one, same for all sparklines, is going to take the maximum data point from this entire list, and it's going to make that the chart axis. So we'll make the maximum the same for all sparklines. I don't think we need to change the minimum. Sometimes you do, because you can't always assume in Excel that the minimum starts at 0. I know that's crazy, right? You can't do it, so just know that. I think here, as I recall this example, we are safe. But now that I've changed it, you can actually see, right, that the story it tells is different. Perhaps a richer story, one might argue, because not only does it tell you the greatest amounts, but it also shows you that the total amount of tornadoes have been increasing over the years, right? And that as we go all the way down, that actually, you know, we actually see that increase. Now, why is it happening? I honestly don't know. I'm not a weather person. I'm not a meteorologist. You know, some have speculated it's climate change. It could be, but it also could be the way that we are reporting it. I don't mean to take a side on the issue. I only present it because it's very easy to look at data and say, I know what it's saying, and it could be very well that both things are correct, right? Or that contradictory things are correct. So I don't know how the data was reported, so I don't want to say, I just don't want to speak to its efficacy. Now, the next thing I want to do is my boss is like, well, this is great, but I don't really need all this data right here, right? I don't need it. But I would like to refer to it if someone asked me a question. So what would we do? Well, what we could do is we could highlight C, and I can hold Shift and hit N right there. So we'll Shift and hold all the columns so they're selected. Then what we can do is we can go to the data ribbon tab, and I'll hit the group button right there. So this is going to put that little minus sign here. So now we're going to group it. So if I hit this minus, it'll get rid of everything. And then there'll be a plus, and I can hit that and it'll show it again. But watch what happens when I hit this. It's going to do something interesting. So I'll hit this right here. And now notice my spark lines have all disappeared. They're all gone. Where did they go? Well, again, you can't take anything for granted here. I got to move this zoom thing out of the way. That's not going to be the first time you hear me saying that. Every time I do a live stream, I'm always like, this darn zoom thing. Okay, so our spark lines have disappeared. We would like them to reappear, so we'll go ahead and hit get data, and under the data source, or not get data, sorry, I'm thinking on a different line here. We're going to click on spark line edit data, and we're going to click hidden empty cells here. And where it says show data in hidden rows and columns, you're going to go ahead and click OK, or check that and hit OK. And there we go. It is, there we go. It is shown, right? So now I can actually see it all at once. And, I can put this on a nice dashboard, and I can make this a little bit better looking. I might choose to perhaps remove the grid lines, put something like that here. I can do whatever I want. Now, I'm presenting this, and I'll be honest, I don't love my dashboard colors right now. I'd still play with this, but we would be here all day if I kept going at it. But if someone said, oh, well, that's really interesting, I want to understand, what were the actual numbers like, I can hit this plus button. You can see it. Okay, so that was kind of an example of how I do demos. I go towards an end goal in mind, and rather than say, oh, here's what index does, here's what VLOOKUP does, we just kind of build towards something, towards some product, and then we discuss, how to get there. Here's a way to get there using the Excel knowledge you have. Okay, so that was a fun one. Let's take a look at another interesting data visualization. Let me pull up the files. Okay, so next thing we're going to look at is the linked chart, classic example of mine, one of my favorites. So basically, we have a chart that is connected to a lookup. So this is a data validation dropdown, and then that lookup, changes the chart source, which allows us to actually look up data from up here and present it here, and we can do it seamlessly without any VBA, which is, I love VBA, and if you read my books, you'll know that I love VBA, but I'm very particular because VBA is expensive. It takes a while to run, it takes the computer something to think about, and it's not as elegant. That would be my argument as compared to what I'm about to show you. Okay, so let us go ahead and do this. First thing I need to do is I got to build that drop down. So I'll go to data here, and there is somewhere around here, I believe it is this thing right here. And I say that because every time I open off, or I guess maybe it's because I'm looking at this at a different monitor. I feel like every time I look at Excel 365, these icons change or something's been scrunched or moved. Now, I think on my other monitor, it has the resolution to show data validation, but this is something that people get tripped up a lot when I do this over webinars because, I can't see their screens. So it may be this button, it may be that icon. So if you're watching this, you're thinking, where is that on mine? That's where it would be. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is in this allow dropdown, I'm going to select list. That's going to allow me to source a list. Whenever you see this little button right here in Excel, that means I can refer to something on the spreadsheet, which I am going to do right here. So here's my list. That's my source. Easy, right? It's already there for us. So I'll go ahead and click OK like that. And always a good idea once you've done that to test. Okay, so this looks good. We can click around. What are we clicking on? It doesn't really matter. We're just making sure that this works. All right, so the next thing we need to do is pull out the data associated with this drop-down selection. Now, in the olden days, right, in the before time, we used something called VLOOKUP. But now, in our new enlightened era, we have something called XLOOKUP. Now, XLOOKUP is will allow us to like take a lookup value, and then we supply it a lookup array, and then we're going to supply it the return array. So we're not going to use a column. And I'm going to click B9 here. This is our lookup value. If you heard me pause there for a second, I was thinking, you know, have I ever done this example with an XLOOKUP before? And the truth is, I don't think I have. I've always done this with a VLOOKUP, but you know, times are changing. So if I mess this up, let's see here. This should be, now if I wanted to return one thing, this would be the return array. So basically what VLOOKUP was doing before was, right, it would match something on the left side, and then you gave it a column of what you were interested in, right? So you would column, if you wanted to pull back 2, 3, 4, and 5, you'd give it those columns. Now you're going to give it a return array. So basically what's it's going to happen is it's going to match at a certain location, and then wherever it matches, you know, like let's say it matches to Mark right here, in the return array, it's going to pull back that same representative row. So let me just see here if this is, if I hit enter here, I know this 470 works. What I want to know is if I stretch this out, this should become an array formula. Oh, perfect. I love it. Okay. So basically, this is so cool. So like once you match with Mark, right here, because I said I want my return array, which I'm going to just highlight here. I'm going to kind of move this so you understand it. Okay. So my return array is this right here. So this is my lookup array. This is my lookup value. So lookup value is Mark. It's Mark right here, row 2. So Excel thinks, oh, I know row 2. And then I give it the return array. And then when because I made it long like that, it knew to return all 4 items right there. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to color me impressed, right? And look, I didn't have to do Control-Shift-Enter. I've done this example so many times talking about Control-Shift-Enter. Now Excel just does it for you with these new arrays. So just showing you here, April, Sarah, Jeremy, Mark, right? So look, it's all working. We see that it's working. We like that. Okay, so what can I do next? I would like to create a chart. I'm gonna go to Insert, Charts here. We'll do a 2D column chart. Watch this. This is so cool. Okay, I'm gonna take this, highlight this whole thing here, Control C. We're gonna copy it. I'll click this here, Control V. That's gonna paste it. Now, it did paste it in the chart, but I don't like how it looks, right? Because this is all one series. So I'll right click on this and hit Select Data, and then I'll hit the Switch Row and Column. So that put Mark over here, and then, you know, that's gonna make this 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if you are a person who stops right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, I would beg you not to. Please go ahead and hit that edit button and always give a chart an axis. Like that should be on a t-shirt, right? Because I'll cry if you don't. Now, let's see here. Jeremy through Sarah, that looks good. Okay, I'll go ahead and hit OK on this. April, I changed this to April. You see the data updated. Jeremy right here, the data updates. Sarah. Okay, so cool. So this would normally be the end, but let's freestyle on this a little bit. Let us say, for the moment, that we wanted to extend from our last example and highlight the greatest value. And we wanted to do it automatically, much like we did in the last example. Like I didn't write any code to make it highlight. I just used Excel's native features. So how can we do that? And can we do it with just formulas? Well, we can. First thing I need to do is I got to delete these horizontal lines. They're killing me. Okay, so I'm going to just make this, I got to make this thing look a little bit nicer, okay? you know? So what I like to do is, let's make the shape outline of this gray, and then I'm gonna make this have no outline. Okay, ooh, that already looks better. All right. Next thing is I want to make this always highlight the top value in the series. So how can I do that? Well, over here I'm going to just write myself something, max value series like this. Well, let's call this max value like that. And I'll hit equals, type in max. We're going to grab the max here. It's 873. Okay, so then we're going to call this the max value series like that. So what I want this to do is, if I'll speak the logic as I type my if this is equal to this here, I'm going to lock that in. But I would say this is a great time to make C11 a named range, call it like max value or something, if you were doing this for a production level environment. If that is equal to that, then we're just going to return the max value. So we'll do that. We could return either of them, right? Because if they're equal the same, it doesn't really matter. Let's do it like this, because I'm trying to think about what is the logic that makes the most sense. Okay, if it's not true, we're going to return an NA, and NAs are not plotted. That's why we're going to return them. So you can feed an NA into a chart, and Excel knows to ignore them, versus if you feed it a zero still can be plotted, right? So I don't want that on my chart. And you're going to see why in a second. Take this, drag it to the right. Perfect, right? So the greatest value is parallel in the series. Otherwise, it's going to be all NAs. So test it again. I'll hit mark here. You see 754 is the greatest value. Hit April here. 993 is the greatest value. Same deal. Okay, so we're going to take this here. Control C to copy. Click into the plot area. Control V to paste. Okay, so that gets us the chart itself, and it gets the rest of it not plotted. Watch this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to click Format Data Series, and I'm going to take the series overlap, and we're going to say no overlap. So all series need to be on top of each other, or other way, excuse me, 100% overlap. So all series need to be on top of each other. Okay, so that fixes that problem. Let us now make these colors a little bit better so that they communicate perhaps the information better. Do I like that? Let's see here. Every time I do this, I change the colors because I think there's just so many different ways to look at something. And I don't want you to think, good data visualization isn't about what you shouldn't do. It's about like trying different ways to look at the data until you converge on the right one. Okay, so this looks a lot better, right? And check it out, it's always going to work. Like if I make this Jeremy, you see that, let me fix this as well. So these axis labels should be this here. Okay, perfect. North, south, east, and west. That's what we want to see. All right, so if I do April, it automatically highlights. Sarah automatically highlights. Here's what I love about this, okay? This is live, right? So Sarah, we're looking at Sarah right now, 873. But if I were to change this, right, I'm going to change this to 400. This chart's going to automatically update, right? And there's no VBA driving this. So something to think about. You can build this stuff very easily, very quickly, if you just know how to hook things together. Now, one last thought on this. I'm looking at this chart. What does it need? Well, it needs a title. Every good chart needs a title. So I'm going to hit Add Chart Element, Chart Title, Above Chart. Now, before, remember, the chart title was actually changing based off of who we selected, right? Well, right now, you may think we can't do that anymore. But let me show you. I've clicked on Chart Title. I'm not going to edit what's inside. Formula bar, go right up there, type in equals, and then I'll select our drop-down cell like that. So you see it says Sarah. Make it Mark, Jeremy, April. So look at all this stuff you can do. Stuff they don't show you this in school. That you can attach a chart element, to a regular cell. Okay, so that was a good one. Let us see what we have next. I'm gonna do. Let's see. I'm looking at the time here. we started at 8:30. Okay, yeah, we're doing really good. We got plenty of time. Okay, so next thing I want to show you is we got this data visualization here over on the right side. We have this data visualization. Right now, I got this process that's happening at my company. So I'm building widgets. I got the cost of goods sold for it, right? How much does it cost to sell it? Which is the combination, as you know, of all these different manufacturing costs. I sort of remember it. I was helping my cousin in his accounting class at DeVry, and I had to look all that stuff up again about raw materials and how to do those journal entries. Now, here I have I have this process, right? And I have this show savings clicked. I'll unclick show savings, right? That's what it originally cost, but because I've implemented, let's say, Six Sigma or something like that, I've made some improvements. I hit the show savings button. Now we see the difference, and my boss is like, "Wow, how'd you save us so much money?" And I said, "Well, I learned a lot about Excel and data visualization. I was able just to see the problems and learn how to fix them." Okay, so how are we going to build this thing? I'm over here on my checkbox toggle example. This is where the raw is. Let's walk through the raw data real quick. I always call this kind of the information table. Here, so let's walk through the information table real quick. Here's the original cost of goods. Here is the new cost of goods with the improvements. And then here we see in the formula bar that these are subtracted, which is the delta between those two items. Okay, so if we want to build this, first thing we got to do is add ourselves a checkbox. So I'm going to go click on my developer tab. If you don't have a developer tab showing, what you can do is you can go to File, Options, Customize Ribbon, and then over here on the right side, yours would look like this, unchecked. You'll go ahead and check it and hit OK, and there it'll be. Next thing you're going to do, you can go to this thing that looks like a toolbox, and you see there's two sets of controls here. So this is where we're going to get our controls from. I won't be doing anything down below. So if you try this on your own afterwards and you're like, why isn't this working? It's probably because you picked one of the ones down here. Just something I've seen people run into. So we'll just deal with the top ones, form controls. I'll grab that checkbox, click here, deposits a checkbox right there, right for me. I can click into this checkbox and I can write show savings as a question like that. So note, I like to test, click the checkbox on and off. Cool thing about the checkbox though is I can hold control. So I've clicked the checkbox like that. I'm going to go up into the formula bar like this, and I'm going to say equals, and then I'm going to select this cell here. So this is going to track whether that checkbox has been selected or not. So I'll go ahead and hit enter. You see it says true. If I hit the check again, it says false, true and false. Well, what do we know about trues and falses in Excel? Well, you may know this. Imagine some of you do, that trues and falses can function like ones and zeros. So what we'll do is I'm going to turn true show savings on, and when the savings are on, I want the data. To fill the table that reflects what I would see on that chart. So with that true looking like with that true on, right? So with the true being a 1, I'm going to take E3 right here and I'm going to multiply it by this value, and I got to make sure to lock it in. By that I mean I'm going to hit F4 so it puts the absolute reference on it. And so I've done that. I'm going to hit show savings. You see it goes to 0 now because 0 times anything is 0. 1 times anything is itself. So I'll drag that to the right. Looks good. Drag it down. I'm going to drag it down one more. Okay. So testing it out, looks good. Okay, so when I want these to not show, but I want this one to show, this should be false. But if I multiply false by this, it's going to be 0. So I got to take the opposite of false. So I got to do a not, right? So what's not false? True. So let's make sure I remember to lock that in. So I got to multiply that by the cost of goods for the widget. Go ahead and hit OK on that. Double click this the way down. Now look, it's perfect, right? It's beautiful. It's working exactly how we want. OK, next, we need to put in our chart. Go ahead and hit insert, line chart. We have 2 types of area charts here. because it's a stacked area chart, we're going to pick this one right here. That's going to stack it. And then what we got to do is we got to get all this data into here. So I'm going to do the lazy method. I love doing the lazy method. I'm going to highlight this whole thing like this, Control C, click on the chart, Control V. Probably not going to be exactly what I want because it never is, but it does quickly get things onto a chart. Okay. So show savings is off. This kind of looks good, right? So it's showing the total. Let's turn it on right here. Oh, it's perfect. Wow. I didn't expect it. I'm going to be honest with you. I really did not. It's working exactly as we hoped. I think this is a fluke. I think this is a bug. It usually doesn't go this way. But now that it has gone this way, the next thing we need to do is edit the chart. So first 1 through 12, I hate that. You know, that's going to make me angry. So I'll right click and hit edit, or I'll hit right click and hit select data. Then I'll click edit on the right side, of this, right? Not the left side, because the right side always deals with the axes, left side always with the data. So axis label range, we got it right here, January through December. Go ahead and hit OK on that. OK on that. Let's see here. Gotta get rid of these horizontal lines. It's just what I believe in. And I'll put a soft gray on there. And I also just never like when my charts are outlined. Really like it when they, yeah. See, look how much nicer that looks. Okay, so let's think about the colors here. Right now, Excel has given us some colors. What I would really like to do is connect this here with the fact that its improvement is this red one right here. So I think the easiest way the data visualization would tell us to do that is to use the same color, right? That's what the research would say. Or use some shade of the same color, because that would give us a sense of what it is. But what happens is Excel always picks the color for me. I can never line it up right. So let's see here. I'm going to go with this one right here. But now that I've done that, I'm going to have to remember where it is. Okay, it's the fourth one down on the fourth one in, or fifth one in. Okay, now that I've done that, I should click this one here and make it the same. Fourth one down, fifth one in. Okay, so now that I've done that, that looks a lot better. It's a lot more seamless. Now in the original example that I had come up with, I had this dotted line, but I kind of don't like how this looks. So I kind of think that a better way to do this is actually to make this kind of almost like it used to be part of the bigger one. So to make it something kind of lighter, like this. And then I almost wonder, and I'm just thinking about this out loud, if it makes sense to give it an outline, but not like a huge outline. Just something light that gives it the sense that we are like moving from removing, from here, and now it's taking a bite of it, away. So yeah, some in there. I'm sure if I kept playing with that, I'd figure it out. But basically, you can see that it's moving it away. I think what's getting me is that I made this. I should make this kind of like a bluey color as well. Yeah, that kind of, well, I could get carried away here. Let's focus. Let's refocus. Okay, so that's kind of how I think about how one might do this from a data visualization standpoint. Next thing here is my chart title kind of sucks, right? What I need is a chart title that reflects the savings differences. So, what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at this one, I'm showing savings with the improvements. If I'm looking at this one here, I'm showing it just with the cost of goods sold. So let's go to here where I have chart title E17. I'm going to type in equals if. Now I could say if true equals true, right? I could say if show savings equals true here, but I don't really need to because the logical test is looking for a true or false. So I'm not going to test if true equals true because it's either going to be true or false, whatever's in there. So value if true, so this is true. I want it to be this here, and then value of false, I want it to be this here. So I'll hit enter. So let's see here. That looks good. It's changing like we want. I'm going to go into the chart title. I'll type in equals like I did before, and I'll click on this cell. So we've hooked it to a cell. So this now should work as we want it. Look how cool that is. Awesome. Okay, so that's the checkbox dashboard, as I like to call it. So I'm going to hit X on that. Hit X on that. Let's see what we have next. Tornado dashboard, one of my favorites. This one used to take forever to do, and now Microsoft is like, they made all the improvements to the array formulas, and like it's a lot quicker now because there's no Control-Shift-Enter anymore. Okay, so we're returning to the tornado data. Here I have a scatter plot. These are all these are the totals that you saw for all the years, right? And I have the selector that allows me to cycle through the data. Here, vis-a-vis the scroll bar, it's going to give me a highlight of what I'm looking at. And then over here, it's going to automatically show me a drill down of that monthly data. So how does one build this? How do we go about building this? Okay, so let us move over to tornado example here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click and hit select data. And I just want to show you here, if I click on the values and I click edit, that this actually is it's just using the year for the X values, and it's just using the total tornadoes for the Y values. Okay. And okay on that. So first thing we're going to do is developer tab, insert a form control scroll bar, draw it out here. Okay, so we got this scroll bar here like this. So it can move up and down. I'm gonna right click on the scroll bar, hit format control. Now before I had just clicked on the scroll bar and I went to the formula bar, I can also right click and click format control, and you'll see it has a cell link here. That's the other way to get to it. I'll click on this. This is where I'm gonna link it. That'll be my cell link. The current value is 37 here. You know, I would like it to at least be a 1. The minimum value needs to at least be a 1. The maximum value, I already know that there's 45 data points in here, so I'm going to make that a 45. I'm going to turn 3D shading off. That used to make it look better. Now I don't think it does anything, but I still turn it off anyway. So as you can see, as I scroll like this, that scroll bar value down here is changing, so I like that. Also, what's cool is it's very two-way. You know, I can type in a 9 here and hit enter, and that'll update the scroll bar as well. Okay, so I want to create the selector mechanism that would be on this chart here. How could I go about doing that? I just need to grab a drink there. All right, so how could we go about doing this? Well, we would need to know the current X and Y as indicated by the scroll bar, which is to say, if this is focusing on the 9th point, we would need to know the X and Y, and then we can plot it on top of one of these scatter plot points, much in the same way we did with our first example. So how can I get the current X and Y? Well, I'm going to do an equals here, do an index, right? Go to the tornado data over here, like that, start at 1950, Control-Shift down, is going to highlight the whole thing really quickly. I'll hit F4 to lock it in, even though I know I'm not dragging it anywhere, but you know, it's going to be stationary anyway. It's a good idea to do it. Okay, so this will pull back the 9th item within that list right there. So I'll hit enter, pulls back a 1958. I'm going to hit 4 here, so we get one that's a little easier. 1953, I'll go back to the tornado data. Watch this, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is in fact 1953, so we like that. That looks good. Next thing we want to do is we're going to pull over the series that's right next to it. So I'll type in equals index here for our current Y, Control-Shift down, F4 to lock it in, comma, to make sure that when I move to the next page, it doesn't change this one here. Then we'll pull from the scroll bar value, close it off like that. So we see it says 1953, 422. Go back over here, check our 1953 and 422 are our check digits, and they are in fact correct. Okay, so next thing we want to do is we're going to right click on this chart, hit select data. I'll click add series name here. I'll call it selector, like that. What are our X values? Well, they're given right here, 1953. What's our Y value? Always delete what's in there in that equals bracket 1 thing. We'll make our Y value the current Y. So I hit enter like that. I'll go ahead and hit OK. You can see our selector is born, right? It is on this chart because these items here are feeding it. So you can see, of course, it is in fact working. Now, how can I quickly get information about that data point that I'm so interested in that has been selected by the selector, right? How does one get that information? Well, what I can do is I can right click it here and watch this. I'll just click add data label. It's not that hard. See, before, when I first started using Excel, I was doing, and I loved adding this type of interactivity, I was always using VBA, and I never thought to do it this way. So I'm going to right click on this. I don't really like it to the right. I'm going to make it above. Let's make it like bold, you know, make it look a little nicer. This marker, it seems very big. I'm not going to lie. It's too big. So I'm going to marker options, built-in size. I'm just going to make it smaller like that. Okay, so that looks a lot better. Now, remember, we had this drill down over here, right? It showed us the different values for each month. So what I'm going to do over here is I want to get access to the year. What is the year I'm looking at? Well, that is given by the current X. So I can just make that D33 right there. Type in Jan, Feb. This is just going to give me the ability to do an autocomplete. So I can take it all the way down to December like that. And over here, I would like to, you know, show what those raw data values are. But to do that, I would need to go back to the other sheet and grab them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill them in down here, and then we're going to display them over here. So how are we going to grab those values? Well, I'm going to use, instead of index, I'm going to use offset in this case. Go to the tornado data here. I'm going to use this as my offset anchor cell. Now, offset, the way offset works is it looks for an anchor. They call it a reference. I call it an anchor. So the anchor cell is where you're going to start, and then you can tell it how many rows or columns you want to go down, you know, or to the right. So if it's positive, it's always down or the right. If it's negative, it's up to the left. So here's my anchor. How many rows do I want it to go down? Well, that's going to be given by the scroll bar value. How many columns do I want it to move to the right? Well, I don't want it to move any columns, right? Because it's perfect where it is. I just want it to move down. So I'll close the parenthesis on that. I'll hit enter. So we see it pulled everything back that we needed. Let's make this a 4 again here, just so we can double check. So we see that this is 14, 16, 40, 47, 94, 11, right? So 14, 60. Yeah, so these are the right values. So again, how does offset work? You give it your starting point, and you say where you want to go next. Down to the right, doesn't matter. Note that in this case, our starting point wasn't one cell, but an entire row of cells, or yes, entire row of cells representing 12 columns. So you are able to do that. You don't have to offset from one single cell. You can offset from multiple cells. Okay, so I have all that information. Got to get it over here. How do I turn it, right? So this is going horizontally. I got to make it go vertically. So in this case, we're going to use another array formula called transpose. So transpose is a matrix algebra formula. Just does exactly what I said it will do, right? If it's going horizontal, makes it vertical, and vice versa. Okay, so that looks good, right? And as we change this, we see it updates accordingly. So perfect. Looks exactly how we want, and look how fast it is, and no VBA. Okay, so next thing I want to do here is I want to put in a little in-cell bar chart here. Now, the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use the repeat function, right? So the way the repeat function works is you give it a set of text, and you tell it how many times you want to repeat. So in this case, the text I'm going to give it is, if you look at your keyboard and you look above that backslash, right, there's a pipe symbol. So I'm going to give it a pipe bit of text, and then I'm going to select this value over here, right here. So I'll use that to create the pipes. I'll close it. Now you see this pipe looks really good. And if I double click this the way down, all of these look really good. Now I've set this font to be Playbill. I just want to show you, if this was Calibri, right? If this was Calibri, this is how it looks. Doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look as good as Playbill looks. So why is the Playbill the font to choose? I don't know, man. I really don't know, but it has been for years. It makes it look really good. Now, as you can see, as I keep going up, one of the problems I have here is that these values are going to grow beyond the cells, right? So what I got to do here is I have to scale these down. I have to all scale them by the same amount. So what amount should I pick? I don't know. I mean, it's trial and error. I've done this enough times to know that if you divide everything by 3, why 3? I don't know. I just thought, what if I divided everything by 3? It looks a lot better. You know, that's kind of more art than science on that one. You have to pick something that's not going to scale it too hard, because you still want to be able to have you know, do everything you want. Now, last part of this here is you'll note that there's nothing, you know, being shown over here. That's because I hid those cells. So why don't we just keep it going? I'm going to hold 21 here, Control Shift down, right click. I'll hit hide on those. So now we kind of have a complete product. You know, of course, if I go to view and I take off the headings and the formula bar, right? Now, this is all the user can really do. And I probably should protect it. You know, you can see they can click on it. All right, so we're at 9:22. Man, we're doing great. So let's see what we can do next. So those are kind of the two dashboards. Let's move over into something called InfoGraphics. Okay, so infographics are kind of like the unloved stepchildren of data visualization, right? Because most people who've done scientific work, or people who've lived in the data science space, do not really like infographics. But I've had enough people ask me about building infographics in Excel, and I think that they do have a place. You know, they're a little more design oriented, and I can't lie, they're fun to build. And I hope as we are building them, even if you say I'm never going to use one, that you learn some cool techniques while building them, because they are definitely applicable to all dashboards and data visualization, no matter what you do in Excel. So I want to show you how I think through some of these things, right? So what I have here is I have this survey result, right? And this is how many people love Excel. Clearly, we were asking Tableau people, because 25% is not enough. So maybe I'll type in a 90% here, and you see it automatically updates. Well, how would one go ahead and make a chart like this? First thing we would do is we would have to insert a new bar chart. So I'll go ahead and click insert. So, and I'll make sure to do a bar chart, not a column chart. Make sure it grows this way, grows from left to the right. So I'm going to grab this, Control C here, click the chart, Control V, paste it right in there. Okay, so one problem we're going to have is that if I make this, let's say 24 here, you'll note that this axis keeps changing. So that's not good. Right click on that, click Format Axis. We have our minimum and maximum bounds here. I'm going to make the minimum 0. You can't always assume Excel is going to make something a 0. So always type it in, make the maximum 1. So that will keep it from growing and changing. We'll get rid of these horizontal bars here. In fact, now that we've done that, we don't even need this axis anymore. Next thing I want to do here is we'll right click on this here. So we'll make the gap width of this 0, because we want it to fill the whole plot area. So we've done that. Next thing is I don't really need this here, right? And I don't really need this. So now we have a plot area, but we have this chart area around it. Also, I don't need this border around the chart area. I always forget to do that. So let's get rid of that. Okay, so this looks good. So problem though is we have this like moat, right? We have this little bit of space between the plot area and the chart area. So what you'll have to do to fix that is you got to take this corner and you got to drag it all the way over, right? You just got to drag it all the way over beyond the means of this. How far to drag it, I don't know, but farther the better, right? It always seems to work if you go farther. Okay, so now we've made them touch like that. When we click on it, we're actually going to be adjusting the plot area. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger right here, this cell B7, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take it, I'm going to lock this thing into cell B7, right? So I'll click, with this clicked, I'm going to go to the Format tab, and then over here where it says Align, there's a Snap to Grid button. So we're going to hit Snap to Grid, take this to the grid, like that. Okay, like that. Okay, so it's locked in there. So that looks good. So then next thing we got to do is, you know, at this point, it's almost like let's add a nice color around this, right? Oh, we got to add in the data label. So I'm going to right click here. I'm going to click Add Data Label like that. Now this is going to add a boring data label. So first I'll go to format align. I just want to take snap to grid off here, because I'll just show you. Watch what happens if I don't. If I try to move this data label, see it's snapping all over the place, right? This is not what we want. So I'll hit Control Z on that. I'm gonna click align, take snap to grid off. Also, I saw something there. That leader line. I hate this leader line, man. So I got to get rid of that thing. Okay. So I'm going to click on this. It's a boring label. I can go here to shape styles. What do we got here? That one looks kind of cool. You know, maybe we'll make it a little more. Let's see here. You know, I'm gonna think about this more than I even care about it. Okay, so I've made it look like that there. Maybe I want to make it kind of an ovular shape like that. Look, this one up here is kind of a rounded rectangle, so I can click Format, Change Shape, make it a rounded rectangle. And then, of course, when you change the shape, it of course resets your default. So okay, so I made that a rounded rectangle. Make it a little bit bigger, maybe. You know, I can even make it more like a pill if I want. Put it right here. And let's see here. I'm going to make the color a little bit different. Okay, so we'll make it look like that. And just want to show you, it should work. It should update automatically. Okay, so then I also have this kind of rounded rectangle effect you see above on this one. And this is actually just another rounded rectangle placed on top of it. So I'll hit Control C on this one. And then I'm going to Control V down here just to paste that. And I'm going to make this. The trick is you got to make this line the same color as the cell background. So if this is the fifth one in, second one down, I can go here, go to shape format, and make the shape outline fifth one in, second one down. So now it blends in, right? And then the trick is you can kind of put it over the cell here, go back to align and click snap to grid again. So we'll just, you know, align it so it looks good. Sometimes you got to mess it up a little bit just to re-snap it. Okay, so yeah, so there we go. Now look how good that looks. I'll type in 70 here. Okay, so that's only part of my infographics thing, because the next thing what I really like is this thing called the camera tool. My camera tool is up in my quick access toolbar here, but if you haven't put yours in your quick access toolbar, you will need to go to File, Options, Quick Access Toolbar. You'll go to where it says Popular Commands, and you'll have to click All Commands. Now, why is the camera tool not in the popular commands? I don't know, man. Like that's some high school stuff right there. It's not one of the popular kids. I couldn't tell you, but now you have to find the camera tool. So I'll type in a C here. I can click in this list and hit C. That's going to bring me down to the C's. I'll just hit down until I see it. Oh, there it is. I'd click it and I'd hit add, and of course mine's already added. It'll tell me, it'll say, hey, don't you already know that you've already added this? Sometimes it does feel like Excel is judging you. So I'll go ahead and click OK on that. And with that camera tool selected, right, I can highlight a region of cells like this, say cheese, click the camera tool, click over here, and what we see here is a live version of that cell. So let's see, I'll type in 40 here, and you'll see it updated. So this is really where infographics get kind of cool in Excel. Now, one thing is when you do that camera tool, what happens is it puts this black border around it. So I'll go to picture format. I'm going to click reset picture. That's just going to take me back to everything. And also note, it is a picture. So if you really, I don't necessarily advise this, but if you really wanted to, right, you could take this thing here. Now, this is like a real deal infographic here, right? And it's still live, right? So you can take this here. I'll hit Control C, and I'll put it over here. Now, when I put it over here, let me put my formula bar back. When I put it over here, it's still referring to a cell. This cell reference, it still thinks I'm referring to it locally, if that makes sense. So I got to delete this here. Like it thinks I'm looking at this sheet. I do got to reset it back to be specific. So I'll hit enter on that. Okay, so this is live, right? So you can go put this somewhere else, and we are not locked into its location. So that's what I really think is cool about this. And like I said, this is a real tips and tricks, delivery here. So These are kind of all the tricks that I use. Now, you know, this looks really cool. Would I put this on a production level thing? No, but I do like making these in Excel. I do think that these, and I do encourage you to use everything to its fullest ability so that you think about what is available to you, and that you can like come up with stuff that, even if, you know, isn't exactly data visualization principles, but, you know, you might come up with new things, and you might come up with stuff that is actually does align with data visualization principles. Now, let's see here. You know, we have this donut chart. I think I'm going to leave this. I'm not going to go over this one, but if you, in our download files, there are resources that that links to an article that describes how to do this. So go ahead and take a look at that. What I would like to do is keep moving forward, because I think we're at 8:32. So that gives me about 15 minutes, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. 15 minutes to squeeze in one more example. Okay. And also note, in your download resources, I have two files. One's our analytics resources. The other is how to add the camera tool. So if you were watching, you're like, I did not follow any of that, you can double click that here and I'll tell you how to do it. Okay, so this one I really like, this timeline selector tool. Why do I really like this? Because Power BI can't even do this. Okay, so I'm going to hit enable content here. I'm sure someone clever could actually come up with how to do it in Power BI, I should say. And then I'm going to just close these, because as we are doing a stream, these things do hog up my resources. So we'll close that one here. Let's close this one. I don't need to save. And then I'm going to close this one here. Okay. So what do we have here? Well, what we have here is, this is kind of like those finance charts you see on Yahoo Finance, right? So I have a big series of data here, and then I'm using the timeline tool to highlight what I'm interested in, and that's going to pop up over here, and it's going to tell me over in this chart what's been highlighted. So let's go ahead and build this, and every time I build it, it's always slightly different. So we're going to build this mechanism, and there's various parts to it. So let's take a look here. Let's start with our, let's start here with our example data. Okay, so what I did is I took that tornado data that we had before, and I'm skipping a step here just for the sake of time, but I actually put it in Power Query and I pivoted it. So basically what we have here is, you know, what we have here is each year, each month, right? And then we have a date for that, and then we actually have the value. So we got rid of the sums, and so now I have 1950 January, and you know, that's how many tornadoes there were. So first thing that I need to do is I would like to create a pivot table. So I'm going to go click Insert, and I'm going to create a pivot table on this. We're going to use an existing, well, we'll just make it new. I like going new. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to drop date over here into the rows. And then I'm going to take value over here and drop that like that. Now, Excel wanted to be smart, and it grouped these all together, but I really don't want it to group it together. So I'm going to right click and hit ungroup. That's just going to get me every month plus the date, which is what I want, because I'm going to use it to satisfy my requests for the different axes, or for the different, to understand the axis labels. Okay, and you'll see that in a second. So I'm going to click in here, pivot table, analyze, insert timeline. We're going to insert a timeline, which hopefully you recall is like a slicer, but for dates, right? So that's going to allow us to slice on dates. Let me show you. If I just click January 1 here, you see that this pivot table updates. So we'll do like this. And as you can see, it's only showing the dates that I'm interested in. Okay, so now that I've built that, what I can do here is this will be, I can insert another chart. Let's do a pivot chart. And in this case, we'll make it a line chart. This is basically my what I'm seeing here is like, basically the zoomed in version, right? So I'm not seeing the entire amount across the time spectrum. Rather, I'm only seeing what has been identified, right, as important vis-a-vis this this mechanism. Okay, so that gets us part of it. So how do we make the other parts of this mechanism? Let's take a look at that. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to find out the information about, what's the maximum value, what's the minimum date. We're going to have to find all of that out, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to our example data over here. Note that this is in fact an Excel table, which means that I can add stuff to the right and will automatically join in the table. But let's go over here and think about what we need. We need max date. And actually, I always think min should go first because, min happens before a max. You just think about it as a range from left to right, max date, min value, max value. Okay, so I don't know if we'll need these. Well, let's see. So how do we get the minimum date? I'm going to make this is like really probably kind of cheap, but I just highlight the whole thing here, right? So I just click sheet 1, AA, take the minimum. That's going to give us the minimum date. And of course, note that this is in fact the date serial number. So I'm going to take this here, Control C, my max date, Control V. I'm going to make that a max here. That's our maximum date. Let's, this is going to bug me if I don't. Let's make it the same date values I put over here. All right, so then I don't think we need the minimum value. So I'm going to remove the minimum value. I think we want the max value of the entire series here, and I'll show you where that's going to come in as well. So I'm going to just grab that right here, like that, from my Excel table. Now, if I want to create that bigger chart, first thing I'm going to do is I'll highlight this here. I'll go to Insert, and I'm going to insert a line chart. Well, that is kind of an interesting chart. I didn't mean to click on that, but now that I have it, that was kind of an interesting chart. Okay, so this is the big one here. Control X on this. I'm just going to put it right here, just so we're close to it. Okay, so this is the big one here. Let's do some formatting on it. So don't care so much about all of this down here. I know that, okay, so we're at that I only have a few minutes left with you, so I'm going to cram this example in. Okay, so I like how that looks. Let's make this a little smaller, like that. Okay, so we have the value here. What I want to do is I want to get a highlight on top of that. So hopefully you recall that all we need to do is create a parallel series, use NAs for what we don't want to plot, and then keep what we do want to plot. So I'm going to call this the current series above, like a good table. It grows, and then here I'm going to do an if, right? So very easy. If this here is greater than or equal to the minimum, right? And it is also less than or equal to the maximum, like that. Then close that off. Then we're going to have it show the value. Otherwise, we generate an NA. Okay. So just to show you, if I do go over here and we just pick some stuff like at the beginning, like that, and then I come back here, you see that in fact this does work, right? See, you see that we have in fact done that. I can take this whole series here, right? Control C, copy it. Go over here, Control V, that's going to paste it on. And hopefully you can see that right there, there's that little red, there's a little red piece right there. So what we can do is highlight that. I'm going to click this line chart here, make this like a little lighter. We'll make it kind of like that. And then I'll make this like a little darker. So you can see that it is in fact highlighting. Okay. So that looks cool. Next thing is, note I had a in my last one, or in my final version, I also highlighted I had a highlight on there just to really bring it out. So how can I put the highlight on there? Well, we just need to, excuse me, we would just need to create a highlight series. Like that. And how can we test if there's a highlight series? Well, note if it's we wouldn't do if NA, we would actually do a not if NA. I don't know if it has a not if NA, but what we can do is we can just do another if, right? So if this is not is NA, right? So if this is not NA, like that, what we would do is we would take out the max value right there. Otherwise, we would generate another NA, right? Oh, I guess I could have done that with the if NA. I see. That's what I was. I think so. There's probably a more elegant way to do that, but as time is of the essence, I'm thinking, well, how do I get this across the finish line? Okay, so I'll hit Control-Shift-C on that. Having highlighted the whole thing, I'm going to click on this chart and hit Control-V. You see it put the line up here, but if I right-click it and I click Change Series Type, instead of making this a line, we make it a column like that. I'll go ahead and click OK. And then I can make, if I wanted to, as I think I did, I could of course make this gap width 0, right? So once I've done that, all I have to do is I can hit Control-C, go back to sheet 1 over here. So this is, I don't love the colors here, but this is really enough to keep you going. Of course, there is an article on how to do this in your resources, so make sure to check that out. But this is effectively the functionality. So we would be complete with that. So I just want to show you, I'll take it to quarters like that, take it to years. We can, just so we can highlight some big amounts and see that it in fact works. And of course, you could make this like a stock chart. This is volume down here, and perhaps this is the stock price. It doesn't have to always show the same things. You just want to make sure everything's connected. All right, so with that, I've showed you tons of cool tips and tricks, stuff that I've been using and manipulating over the years. I know it was fast, but really I wanted you to focus on really, you know, how do you think about these problems differently? Because that's the real way you learn. I really appreciate your time, and I would love to see what questions you might have.
Thank you so much, sir. We have a question. How to add data streamer and script lab?
Interesting questions. Okay, let me think. How did I add this? I'm just like Script Lab. I think I downloaded that from, I think I just Googled the Script Lab. And then it'll take you to the download. It'll take you to the place where you can download it. I don't really know what the status is of Script Lab though. I'm not gonna lie. I don't really understand I haven't really used it a whole lot except downloading it. The data streamer. The data streamer, I think, is also an add-on. I can't remember how I got that. I wish I did, but what it does allow you to do, I mean, I'm sure if you just Google it or Bing it, as the case may be, you will find it. But what it does allow you to do, if you've not seen it, is you can connect a device. So people who know me personally know I like to barbecue, and I really like, you know, I would really love, like, I think it would be cool if I like got a thermometer that I could capture, that would like allow me to capture the temperature over time. Now, I actually did have a really nice thermometer before that like did a rate that captured some stuff, but it didn't work in Excel. But now it could work in Excel with a USB type connected device that was able to feed in that information. Or I think you can hook it to a Raspberry Pi or Arduino or something like that if you're into that. What other questions?
Thank you, sir. Just a reminder, please be sure to type your questions into the question box.
Well, you know what Excel developers put in their hair? Some product. You should never call a statistician's work average. It's mean. Okay, one last one. All right, I swear. If there are no questions, this is what happens. A pivot table walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Hey, should I start a new tab?"
So we do have a question.
Mhm.
The question says, what's the difference between VBA and Office scripts?
Sure. So VBA is like, you have to think about VBA as like, you know, it was like an older language, right? It's an older language based off the idea that people wanted to automate what they were doing in Excel to really save time. And it really, I think, comes out of like scripting languages back before that that were like on Linux and DOS, where you could write batch commands and macros and things like that, or like the Vim editor. And, you know, that back end part of Excel, it's very constrained on, I popped this up over on my other tab. It's very constrained on what it can do. And the thing is, it's an older technology. See, even like, it's even kind of bugging out right now as I move it to this other screen. And so it's just like, stuff like that. It's older, and what it allows you to do is manipulate the cells, and it allows you to manipulate your worksheets. It allows you to manipulate objects in Excel. And in that sense, there's a lot it can do for the user who's using Excel. But at the same time, it's based off this older language, VBA, or Visual Basic 6.0. On the other hand, and just to show you some, I mean, I'm just double clicking here, kind of showing you the code here. But, you know, something you might do in terms of a sheet, like I'll click worksheet here. So I clicked on my sheet, I've clicked worksheet. So this captures a selection change event. So I can type in hello. Every time, you know, every time this worksheet change event happens, it's going to message box hello to me. So that was on sheet 1. Go to sheet 1 here. I can change something. See, it's doing it. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff you can do with VBA. And Office scripts, as far as I can tell, are actually add-ins. So with Office scripts, like ScriptLab, stuff like that, you build add-ins. So add-ins come in over here, right? So these are different types of add-ins that you can add into Excel. And oh, you know, someone asked, how do you add ScriptLab in? So it looks like if I click add-ins here, I added in via, I went to developer add-ins, and I clicked, and I probably added it. Let's see here, admin store. I think I clicked store here, and then you can go search for it. So yeah, so ScriptLab is right here. So you can go ahead and click on that add button. Hey, now I remember how to do it. Okay, I just really haven't used it, but add-ins, Office scripts help you build these. And like, as you can tell with this, like I'm still like a novice with this in the sense I'm still not exactly sure what I would use it for. But I do think this is the future. I think this is what VBA you need to know to look at older stuff, like if you're inheriting someone's work. But if you want to start building for the future, differentiate yourself, guys, this is the future. The web version of Office 365 isn't very good right now, but at a certain point, it's not going to be much different than the desktop, and it's going to allow for a lot more, or at least the experience will be the same. And at that point, these add-ins are going to be a lot more important because they're going to be the way of the future. And you know, importantly, the things that they do as add-ins, like VBA, like I said, allow you to manipulate the environment. But an add-in would allow you to do it in a more programming friendly way. So many of these add-ins right here, like let's add the Wikipedia. I've never even, let's see what happens. So it's like an app store, you know? So I've added Wikipedia. So it looks like it can search Wikipedia. So this type of stuff, like this is built here in JavaScript. So that's kind of one of the differences. But just the idea that this is JavaScript and, you know, this here is some different Windows language. eventually it's all going to be kind of come a semantic web-based language, and at which point these two things will not be much different, and then they'll be able to talk to each other, and that's when you're going to get the full like set of capabilities. So next 10 years, that's going to happen. And I know that was a very long-winded answer for that question.
Thank you, sir. We have another question as well. What would you do differently to create dashboards for the head of finance, CFO, or your finance team members?
I mean, every single one of those people is their own audience. So it really all just depends on what your audience needs. So, I mean, my rule is like, you know, it's very easy to go think what you know what the CFO wants, right? So at a certain sense, the CFO at least wants the top level amount of information, but it is incorrect to assume that they would not want to live in the weeds, that they would not want a lot more detailed information. So for them, you really need to focus on like, what is the top items, but still you do need to provide access and drill down capability. Because imagine if you were a CEO, how annoyed would you be if it just gave you surface level information and you couldn't ask questions? You know, for the more financial manager type dashboard, you know, is their dashboard different than the CFO's? I mean, it all really depends. You know, for them, they're definitely going to want to be able to ask questions of it. So for them, you know, like, I guess where I'd go with this is like a CFO could get by with a Power BI dashboard. Your middle manager person, maybe less so, because they're going to want to do scenarios. So like the CFO is looking at what is happening right now. But the lower you go, the more flexible you can get around that. So for them, I would consider more of doing an Excel dashboard. And then finally, for regular financial users, you know, I would say that for them, it's not so much the dashboard is different, but since they may have a hand in creating it, it's really more allowing them to have a seat at the table into like what it's going to look like.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the informative session. And on behalf of Excellent Excel, I thank you for taking time and sharing your wisdom. At this gesture, we would like to acknowledge your dedication towards contributing your knowledge to us, in spite of it being an odd hour for you. We really appreciate your effort, and thank you once again.
Well,
I
I
would
appreciate
also like to
that.
extend, thank you, sir. I would also like to extend our thanks to all the participants for your time and support. We appreciate you being here. Hope the session was useful. We have a couple of announcements. Excellent Excel is glad to inform you that we are conducting a learning course that will help you to upskill yourself and will help you become indispensable during these trying times. EIE Learning is a set of handpicked online courses conducted by working professionals, curated on a gamut of subjects, starting from Tally to Excel and Analyst to Power BI. Here are some courses that we offer. We have a course on robotic process automation, RPA, using UiPath, starting from 21st September, which will be instructed by Gopinath. We have a course on business analyst, also starting from 21st September. Thirdly, we have a course on data analytics using Power BI, starting from 28th September, instructed by CA Ratnagiri. We are also excited to let you know that we have an early bird offer for all the courses on a discount of 40%. These courses are offered based on ideal convenience, which you are free to choose. Sessions through YouTube Live, via Zoom Bridge, where anyone can be a part of. Also, you will get to have hands-on session for better experience. Hence, I would encourage you all to make use of this golden opportunity, as we have only limited seats available. In order to apply, please visit our website www.excellentexcel.in or EIE Learning. An announcement for all regarding our upcoming Fresh Talk. On 18th September, we have a session on 10 common DAX formulas in Power BI by Chandeep Chabra, founder at goodly.co.in. On 25th September, we have a session on HR analytics using Power BI by S. Bhanukumar, founder and director of ARRA Associates. On 3rd October, we have a session on creating income statement (P&L) using Power BI by Mark Walter, business analytics manager and Power BI blogger at storybi.com. And on 9th October, we have a session on 10 amazing PowerPoint hacks you must know by Geetesh Bajaj, Microsoft PowerPoint MVP presentations consultant, author, and who is also awarded as the best MVP Microsoft person for almost 20 years. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you in our next session. Do not forget to like the video, and for more updates, subscribe to our channel. To know more on EiEFreshTalk, use the link in the description box. Stay tuned for more Fresh Talk. Have a happy weekend, and thank you all.
Sir, I would like to tell you something.